Hello, darling. Come in, and welcome to Thriller Video. Yes, it's little old me, that gal with a figure that keeps getting bigger, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
You vile, miserable woman!
Hey, let's not start any name-calling, fatso. Oh, that was a producer's wife. She accuses me of getting this job by sleeping with the producer. Well, let me just set the record straight. I did not get any sleep at all. Anyway, darlings, I am so glad to see you again. Did you miss me bunches? Yeah, I know, in this outfit I'm kind of hard to miss. Seems like no matter where I go, I always stand out of the crowd. And speaking of standing out, is that a frog in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Only a frog, my dear.
Yeah? Well, it looks more like a tadpole to me. Oh, touche, Elvira, touche. Chalk up another one for the Mistress of the Dark. Hey, kid, what am I up to now?
4016, isn't that right?
Right, and I'm sure I'll be chalking up a few more before the movie's over. And speaking of movies, let's see what you picked here in the form of entertainment for tonight. Oh, you picked The Turn of the Screw. The Turn of the Screw? Oh, what a weird title. But, you know, I can sort of identify because I've turned a few screws my own darn self. Or was it the other way around? Well, anyway, here it is, The Turn of the Screw, because you asked for it. See you at intermission.
A rather unusual advertisement offering the position of governess to a young woman of independence had drawn me to a Mr. Jonathan Fredericks of Harley Street, London. Having won his interest by my admittedly bold reply, I had been invited to his offices where we were to discuss my qualifications. It proved to be a meeting I should well have avoided, had I but known of the bizarre and dreadful substance of that which lay before me.
Mr. Fredericks will see you now.
So you are Jane Cubberley?
Yes, sir.
Turn round. Open your mouth.
Sir?
Teeth reveal character. A pretty face is no gauge of worth. Open your mouth, girl. You are a pretty thing. You may sit down, Miss Cubberley. Well now, how do you like London?
I loathe it.
Splendid. As do I. Yet for the greater part of the year, I am forced to conduct my business here. I seldom visit the country.
That's unfortunate. I'm sure the children must miss you.
Not at all. They never took to me, nor I to them. When their parents died in the Sudan, I assumed legal responsibility for their upbringing. As their uncle, my concern with the pair of them is solely one of duty to my dead brother. I find them very heavily on my hands. I have not a grain of patience with young children who are little more than a menace to one's peace of mind.
How dreadful. How absolutely dreadful.
Sit down. girl. So, you think me harsh? Well, I do not require the affections of those I hire, merely their talents. I seek an individual who can assume full control at Bly House, a person of total self-sufficiency and moral courage. From your letters and from what I have observed thus far, you seem to possess these qualities. Your references are quite in order. Therefore, in consideration of the sum mentioned in our correspondence, you may consider yourself in my employ.
How should we be in touch?
We shall not. I am about to undertake an extended business tour and shall henceforth be unavailable.
Yet, if I should require...
Whatever you shall require in terms of monies will be handled through my solicitor. You must deal with all matters of whatever nature involving the children, and without recourse to me. I do not wish to be troubled. Is that understood?
I shall manage quite nicely. And you will not find yourself troubled.
Then we are in clear agreement. Good day, Miss Coverley.
Good day, Mr. Fredericks.
And do you still find me dreadful?
Indeed, sir. In all truth, I do. And thus it was that I found myself of a beautiful afternoon on the final leg of a pleasant journey to the countryside of Essex. I was to be in direct charge of a household which included Mrs. Gross, housekeeper and cook at Bly, and the two orphan children, Flora, aged 9, and Miles, who was newly 14.
How beautiful.
What's that, miss?
Oh, the country. London's all fog and damp.
Are you from there, miss?
Oh, goodness, no. I'm country born and bred. I came to London to apply for a position. I couldn't wait to leave.
Well, you're sure to like Bly then, miss. Gardens, big trees all round. Well, it's an open kind of house. Lets the sun in.
That's very reassuring. The way Mr. Fredericks described it in his letter, Bly sounded rather gloomy. All those closed-off rooms.
Well, there's no use for them, you see, miss. Well, me and my boy Tim, we live above the stables. In the main house, there's just the children and Mrs. Gross since
Since what?
Since Miss Jessel went away, miss. The governess before you.
Yes, I know little of her. Mr. Fredericks said she was taken ill, but he didn't elaborate. Why did she leave?
Oh, it's not my business to say, miss. I'd be speaking out of turn.
Really? Well, can't you tell me anything about her? Was she attractive?
Quite that, miss.
And young?
Oh, young enough to please him, miss. Mr. Fredericks, I mean.
Well, did she get on with the children?
Oh, well enough. Especially with Miss Flora.
I'm naturally curious as to the nature of her illness. Was it quite serious?
Serious? Yes. Miss Jessel is dead, miss, and begging your pardon, I'll say no more about it. Well, there's Bly now, miss.
Upon arrival, I found that my melancholy expectations of Bly House seemed quite unfounded. The house itself was most imposing, and my reception was both warm and heartfelt.
Welcome to Bly, miss. I'm Mrs. Gross, and this one, bless her, is Miss Flora.
You're very
You'll
pretty.
tumble upstairs, miss. It'll be in your room when you want it.
Oh, thank you, Luke. You've been very kind.
You're very pretty, you know. I hope we shall be friends.
Oh, thank you, Flora. I'm sure we will.
You'll find her a little angel, miss. There's no other word to fit.
Nonsense. On radios, I'm quite wicked.
Well, then I shall see to it that the sun never stops shining. Where's young Master Miles?
Oh, he'll be home tomorrow, miss.
From school. For the holidays. come with me, Miss Cuppy. I so want to show you all of Bly House. This is the drawing room. And this is the library.
My, what a grand house.
Upstairs is best. That's where we play our games.
Oh, what do you play?
Oh, hide and seek and riddle games. But special best is playing pretend with Miles. He's so good at it.
You'll find them very bright, miss. I warrant they'll surprise you.
What do you pretend to be?
Oh, grown-up people like...
Like who?
Why, like our dear Mrs. Gross, of course. Come, I so want to show you the upstairs. Isn't this a grand staircase, Miss Coventry?
Yes.
And this is our room. This is where I sleep. And this is where you sleep. We will be together each and every night.
I hope you'll be comfortable here, miss.
Oh, it's a lovely room. It's lovely. The grounds are delightful.
Oh, Luke keeps them up. They're his pride.
He seems a fine man.
He's horrid!
For shame, Flora.
He won't let Miles play with Timothy. He makes him stay away.
Never you mind that. I'm sure he has his reasons, and it's not for you to judge.
Who's that boy down there riding on the horse?
Oh, that'll be Timothy, Luke's son.
Oh, what kind of boy is he?
Oh, quiet. Doesn't say much. Keeps to himself. But I'm sure you're anxious to see your schoolroom, Miss Flora. Show Miss Coverley the way.
Okay, Explorer. I'm the road guide, and you're lost in the dark and awful jungle. Shut your eyes and I'll lead you. No peeking, mind. If you peek, a lion will eat you, hair, toes and all.
Oh, I wouldn't want that to happen.
We've arrived safely. You may open your eyes now.
Oh, thank you, Flora. Oh, well, it's most complete.
She insisted on having it this way.
She?
The one before you, miss.
She means poor Miss Jessel. We're not meant to talk about her. Look, there's Blowboy. Lucas exercising him. What a splendid animal.
What did Flora mean, that she's not to speak of Miss Jessel?
Oh, it's just that Miss Jessel's gone and you're here now. Past things are past, miss.
Come, hurry, hurry. So much more to see. And this time you may keep your eyes open.
What about the lions?
Oh, I shot them all. We're quite safe now.
Oh, go on with you, Miss Flora. I'm sure Miss Coverley doesn't want to go traipsing around all over this big house. She'll need to be resting after her trip.
No, on the contrary, I feel quite stimulated. I'd like to see all that's to be seen.
I shall show her the parapet.
Oh, well, then I shall leave you both to it. I've got work enough to do downstairs. Dinner's at 8 o'clock. We're so happy to have you with us, miss. May the good Lord bless and keep you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gross. I'm happy to be here.
Miles and I simply adore the parapet. We play knight and lady here. He saves me from the fire dragon.
She's very well out. Aren't you afraid?
Not at all. I'm not afraid then.
How remarkable.
Sunsets are often quite lovely from here. You can see ever so far.
It is lovely. Quite dangerous, though.
Oh, bother, it's not dangerous. Not if you know how to keep your balance. Look, I can even stand on one leg.
Flora! You promised me you'll never do that again.
I promise. But isn't the view breathtaking?
Who's that man?
Man,
The
was a man standing there a moment ago by the clock tower. He was staring up at me.
I saw no one, miss.
It seems Mrs. Gross was quite right. I am fatigued. I'll have a rest before dinner.
Of course, Miss Cubbley. Dear lady. Why did I've exhausted you with this nasty climb? I'd be very naughty. I've done wrong.
Poor Flora. You've done nothing wrong. Nothing at all. The postbag that second morning at Bly contained a letter addressed to me. Inside, I found a note from Mr. Frederick's solicitor declaring that he had received the enclosed envelope, which remained sealed, from the headmaster of Miles' school, and that I should deal with it, whatever the contents. Breaking the seal, I read the news that Miles had been dismissed and would not be allowed to return. I was shocked and bewildered.
Good morning, miss.
Oh, Mrs. Gross, I think you should see this.
Oh, I haven't got my glasses, miss, and I really can't read properly without them.
Well, I can tell you what it says, yet I cannot for the life of me comprehend it.
Yes, miss?
The school has dismissed Master Miles, and he is not to be reinstated.
But what has the boy done?
Oh, they go into no particulars, yet they declare him an injury to the others.
Master Miles? An injury?
Yes, no violation is specified, but the charge is clear.
Why, it's dreadful to say such a cruel thing. See him first, miss, and then believe it if you can.
Have you never known him to be bad?
Oh, never, miss. I don't pretend that.
Then he has been.
Yes, miss. But then a boy who never is no boy to me. On occasion, I've known him behave badly.
But not to a degree. To contaminate. To corrupt.
Oh, my, no. You aren't afraid he'll corrupt you, are you, miss?
He's coming! I saw the carriage! Miles is coming! He's coming!
Then we must hasten to him.
Oh, dear, Miles.
Oh, Flora. And good Mrs. Crowe.
Welcome home, Master Miles. We've all missed you so. And this is Miss Coverley down from London, your new governess.
My, you're a fine-looking young gentleman.
You're a fine-looking young lady.
Isn't she, though? And she's good at games. We've already played lots of them.
Indeed. And I'm sure we shall all function splendidly together.
Shall we go in?
Come on, Flora. Come on, Flora.
Well, miss, was I right about the young gentleman?
Yes, it's grotesque.
And the cruel charge?
It's preposterous.
Then how are you to answer? What are you to tell Mr. Fredericks?
Well, I should tell him nothing for the present.
But what about the boy's schooling?
Well, he's on holiday now. No, I'll wait for Miles to speak on the subject, as I'm sure he shall. On the evening of the day of Master Miles' return to Bly House, a rather odd incident occurred. I had gone to the terrace in need of solitude. The sky was spangled with stars, and the sweet scents of the garden permeated the night around me. It was as if time had stopped. The world was held fast in this frozen moment. No evil could disturb it, no events distort it. Then faintly, I heard a voice from the garden. I recognized it as the voice of young Master Miles.
So glad to be back again. Missed you so much not being with you. Now I'm back. I feel much happier. So glad you're back. Miss Coverley, you quite startled me.
Well, I heard you talking to someone. Is Flora here with you?
Oh, no, miss, I'm quite alone.
Oh, but there was someone here. I heard them.
You promised not to think me strange.
Yes, of course I promise. Now, who was here?
My friends. They're still here. They never leave.
But we're alone, Miles.
Oh, no, not really. They're all around us. The trees, the bushes, the grass. All of them are parts of us, Miss Cubberley. Right now. Here in the night. They're alive, you know. They even hear you when you speak to them. They may not understand your words, but they hear you.
Then you were talking to the trees?
Yes. And you do think me strange, don't you? Just as I knew you would.
No, on the contrary. I think it's quite charming that you care about nature so intensely. I must confess, I've always wanted to believe that all things in nature are receptive to communication. It's simply that you're just a bit bolder than I.
Miss Cubberley?
Yes?
Will you promise not to speak of this to Mrs. Gross? She'd think me awfully strange.
You have my word. Now, come on. Off to bed. You've had a very active day.
Miss Cubberley,
What are you doing awake? You're meant to be fast asleep.
I just couldn't sleep
Oh, why not?
because I'm so excited that you're here, and I do like you so very much.
Thank you, Flora, and I like you very much too.
Miles told me he thinks you're splendid.
Did he? That's very complimentary.
Oh, yes, Miles is so very gallant, and the dear boy does have such a way with the ladies.
Does he now? Well, then I shall have to watch out for young Master Miles, won't I? Come on now, you go back to sleep. Night-night.
Yes.
Well, miss, now you've had a chance to meet the young ones, what do you think of them?
They're delightful. Young Miles, he's a sensitive boy.
I can see they're both quite taken to you too, miss.
Really? I so want them to like me, accept me. This is my first important position, and I intend to do everything in my power to make it a success.
Your parents must be proud.
Well, my mother died when I was very young, so I barely remember her. She's more dream than reality. I have an older brother.
But your father?
Well, we were very poor, and he was a parson. He was rather a strict father, a bit of a temper, so we learned to keep out of his way. I barely knew him.
How sad.
No. Do you know, in a way, I'm almost grateful for my childhood. For it now enables me better to understand poor Miles and little Flora.
Oh, my goodness me, my cakes, they'll likely be burned black by now. Excuse me, miss.
Yes, of course.
Is anything wrong, miss?
Moments ago, at this window, there was a man staring in.
You mean Luke, miss? Why?
No, not him. Another.
But who could it be, miss?
He was a horror. That's what it was. I can still see his face as clearly as I see your own.
It could have been someone from the village. A tradesman, perhaps.
No. No, his eyes moved as if he knew this room.
And what of his appearance?
Well, he's a tall man, dressed in black. I saw him once before during my first day at Bly, from the parapet. The same man. He has dark hair, pale, cruel face, wide mouth, and his eyes were sharp, strange, and so penetrating.
Peter Quint.
What did you say?
Peter Quint. The description you give could quite well fit him.
You seem amazed.
Well, I am, miss, because it couldn't be Quint.
Well, why not? Who is this Quint?
The master never spoke of him.
Not a word.
Well, he was hired as the master's own man, his valet, when Mr. Frederick was here, some time ago, that was. Quint was put in charge when the master went away again.
In charge? Above Miss Jessel?
Oh, she came soon after, to rule the children. But he ruled the house.
Was he dismissed?
No, miss. Not dismissed.
What then?
Quint. He died, miss.
Mrs. Gross could not accept the fact that I had truly seen Peter Quint, and in fact I could not blame the poor woman. She attributed the visitation to my having perhaps heard of him from the children and put it down to an overactive imagination. But that night, as I lay in my bed, sleep eluded me, and when I finally closed my eyes, his pale visage visited me afresh. I could arrive at no account whatever of this spectral person with whom I had been so inexplicably, and yet, as it seemed to me, so intimately concerned. Why had the creature appeared to me?
Who's there?
It's me, Jane Cubberley. I'm sorry for this late intrusion, but I felt the need to talk to you. Do you mind? I must ask you some questions, and I pray you be frank and open.
I'll do my best, miss.
How close was Peter Quint to the boy?
But why is it important? Why do you want to know?
Oh, please, Mrs. Gross, I have my reasons.
All right, miss. Quint and Master Miles, they were always together.
What did they do?
All manner of things. I think it would be safe to say that Miles was fascinated by Quint. Sometimes he'd sit for hours just listening to him play the piano.
The piano? A man like Quint?
Yes, miss, I know it seems strange, but Quint was a master at it.
Were they then great friends?
Oh, not friends, exactly. It was Quint's doing. His fancy to play with the boy. I mean, to spoil him. Quint was much too free.
With Miles?
Too free with everyone, that man was. A devil, if you must know the whole of it. He drank, caroused, took liberties.
And you never complained to the master?
He doesn't like complaints, miss. He's very short with anything of that nature.
Yes, I gathered as much at our meeting.
I dare say I was wrong in not going to him, but I was afraid.
Of what?
Of Quint, of what he might do. The man was so clever, so deep.
But you must have realized what his effect would be.
Effect, miss?
On innocent lives, on young Master Miles.
Oh, I was so afraid I didn't dare speak out. And then, when Quint died, there was no need.
How did he die, Mrs. Gross?
Last winter it was, with ice on the ground and windy. They found him on the road from the village. Quint was a hard drinking man, you see, and he'd been imbibing heavily at the public house. That night, on the road, in the wind. He was none too steady on foot. It seems he fell in the dark on the ice.
And the fall killed him?
Yes, miss. That's how they say he died.
That's your problem for tomorrow. Is that quite clear to both of you? All right, then you work it out this afternoon and we'll review it at tomorrow's lesson.
How about now, miss? I believe I have the correct answer.
Well, you haven't had time.
4016, isn't that right?
Hooray for Miles! Sorry, miss.
Now, we're going to identify the principal cities of Italy. What have you got in your desk, Miles?
Only a frog, my dear.
Bring it here. Its eyes. What have you done to its eyes?
Why, I've blinded it, my dear.
Miles!
Well, you shouldn't feel badly, miss. The world is so full of ugly sights. This creature's been spared them.
You take this outside this instant and relieve the poor thing of its misery. Then you bury it.
Very well, miss. Whatever you think is best.
And I do not want you ever to repeat this action.
Are the lessons over today, miss? May I go too? I should so like to watch Miles bury his frog. Please, miss?
Yes, you're dismissed.
Miles, where's your sister?
Down by the pond, I expect.
Well, you should never leave her alone by the water.
Shall I fetch her, miss?
No, it's all right, I'll go.
Laura, what are you doing out here?
Making a boat.
You know you're not meant to be here alone.
I quite intended returning with Miles, only the dear boy left without me.
Well, in future, will you please...
What's wrong, miss?
Who's that woman?
I don't see anyone.
What do you mean you don't see anyone? She's there, she's over...
Where, Miss Cubberley?
Come on, Flora. Let's return to the house. Mrs. Gross?
Yes, miss?
I've just come from the pond with Flora. There was a woman there, dressed all in black, pale and thin-boned, with dreadful eyes. She fixed the child with those eyes, Mrs. Gross. Such awful eyes.
I don't understand, miss. What do you mean?
It's as if she wanted to get hold of her. Of Flora.
Get hold of Flora? Really, miss, I don't know what you're talking about. What did the child say to all this?
Well, that's the fright of it. She said she saw nothing. She was like a great black bird of prey hovering there. A dead thing returned.
Dead?
Oh, yes. I know her. She's an evil face, eyes sunk in shadow, full lips. My predecessor.
Miss Jessel?
Flora has a portrait of her left among her things. The child displays it proudly. It was the same woman, Mrs. Gross. I have no doubt of that.
Yet what I cannot fathom is why Flora won't admit to seeing her too.
But is it not possible, miss, that little Flora is speaking the truth and that she saw nothing of what you did?
The woman did vanish away suddenly. Yes, perhaps she didn't see her. I'll grant the possibility. In fact, Mrs. Gross, I shall cling to it.
There. I so hope it grows.
I'm sure it will. You've done a lovely job.
Oh, I think it's starting to rain. My plant will be ruined.
No, it won't. The rain will do it good.
Do you think so, Miss Cubberley? I mean, I hate to see things die.
Come on, quick. Let's go inside before it really rains hard.
And now we can't.
Ah.
Could we play a game instead?
All right, what would you like to play?
Fetch. We shall play fetch.
Well, I've never heard of such a game.
Of course you haven't. We made it up. We make up all our best games, don't we, Mars?
Oh, yes, we do.
Well, is it very complicated? What are the rules?
What's else we used to play? Welcome, Miles.
Each of us draws a card. If one of us draws a card marked slave, well, then the person who draws that card must obey, providing someone else has drawn a card marked master. If not, then we shuffle and draw again. You may draw the first card.
What must the slave do?
Fetch whatever the master asks.
And who wins?
Oh, there's no winning or losing this. Not in fetch. We just play till we're bored. Ready?
So, I'm the master. And who's to be my slave? Flora?
What does the blank card mean?
It means that Flora is disqualified. The contest, my dear Miss Cubberley, is between us. Your card, please.
What must I do?
You must fetch, of course. It is my right to tell you what to fetch, but not exactly where to fetch it.
Well, what about if I can't find it?
Well, then you lose the game, dear Miss Cubberley. And you still remain slave.
Very well, Miles. You speak, and I shall obey.
Go up into the clock tower. In that great, dark place, there is a Chinese doll. It is dressed in yellow. You must look until you find it.
And am I to bring the doll back here?
Yes, that's correct. As my slave, you must lay the doll at my feet.
Very well. I shall go.
I think my plant is going to die. The rain is killing it. I'm sure it can't survive.
idea the door was only stuck.
There was a woman standing over there.
A woman standing over there?
Yes, there. She's gone now, but she was there a moment ago.
I'll go and have a look.
I'm sure you're all right, Miss Coverley.
You're quite right. There's certainly nothing here now. Over here, was it? Yes. Oh, wait a minute. There's something inside the room. This is probably what you saw. Wait a minute. Only this, my dear. Look, clothes dummy. Oh, I see you found the doll.
I've had enough of this game now, Miles.
Yes, actually, fetch is quite boring. Even on a rainy day. Come on, Flora, we'll find something else to play.
But, miss, I can't understand why you feel that way.
Nevertheless, Mrs. Gross, I'm convinced that Miles arranged the whole incident, and quite probably with Flora's help.
But why did Master Miles want to frighten you, miss?
I don't know. I just somehow feel he had his reasons.
Oh, no more than a boy's prank. He just meant to tease, miss, I'm sure of it, just to tease.
Perhaps Mrs. Gross was right, and Miles did only mean to tease. But it was no longer that which concerned me. It was what I saw while locked in those musty quarters that finally led me that night back to the clock tower of Bly House. A consuming curiosity drew me there, drew me back to the trunk which contained all of the worldly belongings of Peter Quint. I determined to examine these personal items in order that I might know more about the man.
Mrs. Gross, may I have a word with you a moment, please? What do you know of these? Have you seen them before?
I don't know, miss. Where did you find them?
In the clock tower, in Peter Quint's trunk. They were among his things.
Might I see them, miss? Why, miss, they're
Shocking. Vile and degrading. Have you knowledge of them?
I recognize the handwriting.
And the harlot who sent them?
They're from Miss Jessel.
You must speak out fully.
Quint had his way with her almost from the day she arrived. And she, Miss Jessel, she encouraged him in his vices, matched them with her own. An infamous pair they were. Shameless and bold in their dark business. Oh, miss, the things that have happened in this house.
So now I know why he did it.
What, miss?
Miles. Why he sent me to the clock tower. He wanted me to find those dreadful letters.
Oh, miss, how can you think such a thing? Why ever would Master
I
Miles
must have it now. Of what did Miss Jessel die? Tell me the nature of her illness.
After Quint's death, she brooded, shut herself away in her room, refused to eat. We'd hear her moaning in the night. Finally, she left Bly.
Tell all of it. I want the manner of her death.
She went quite mad, miss. Within a month of leaving Bly, and this I heard from others, she put a pistol to her bosom. They found her in the village inn, lifeless on the bed.
I'll have those letters, Mrs. Gross.
Yes, miss.
A week passed without further incident, and the bright days restored my energies. Had I alarmed the good Mrs. Gross, been unjust about Miles, and frightened little Flora, all without due provocation? Had I seen merely projections of my own fears based on rumour and hearsay? I learned to be amused and amusing, and not to think of tomorrow. I had determined to pursue my duties with joy and zeal and give these innocent children, for innocent they surely were, the full measure of my training and love. I said nothing more of what I'd seen to Mrs. Gross, nor she to me.
Would you read to us, Miss Cubberley, while we rest under the shade of the tree?
Oh, what story would you like to hear?
A fairy tale about good and evil with witches and demons and dark forests.
Well, I rather think Miles is a bit old for such stories.
Oh, no, he isn't. Not really. He'll enjoy it every whit as much as I shall. Please. And we could have a picnic.
Well, all right then. I'll meet you under the trees at the front of the house, all right?
I love to watch the sky through tree branches. It looks all cut up into little blue pieces.
Hush you, Ninny. Dear Miss Cubberley is ready to read to us.
Oh, there's no hurry. Why don't you have some more of Mrs. Gross's lovely chicken sandwiches?
The one thing I like about picnics, you always get ants. I love to watch Miles drown them.
What on earth? Oh, I don't actually drown them, and not all the way, I mean.
Tell her how you do it, Miles.
Well, I take a glass of water, I gather some ants, maybe about a dozen, and drop them in and watch them try to swim. They can't, you know. Not for long. Well, I watch them sink all the way to the bottom. Then I pour out the water carefully onto a rock, laying out the ant bodies in rows. The sun beats down and they come to life. After a while, their legs sort of twitch and wiggle, and pretty soon they're alive again.
As if they were never really dead.
Then I let them go.
That's fascinating. Now then, what story would you like me to read?
The one about the little boy and girl lost in a magic forest.
All right. Oh. Once upon a time, in a far-off kingdom of green and gold, there was a magical forest. A wizard had created it to feed his huge belly, but died before he could eat more than the outer edges.
He was a pig.
Oh, do be quiet, or I shall stuff your mouth with grass.
The trees were licorice, the roses were peppermint, and the rocks and boulders were chocolate drops. An evil witch had come to live there in a house alongside a lake of sarsaparilla deep in the forest. She had emerald eyes and sharp ivory teeth and a long pointed nose for smelling out children. Boys and girls were warned never to venture into the magical forest, no matter how good it tasted, because the witch was there to eat them. The witch hated licorice, but loved to chew up boys and girls.
So do evil witches really exist?
No, only in fairy stories.
But evil exists, my dear.
Along with good.
Can it be reversed, I wonder?
How, Miles?
Well, evil be good and good evil.
Look, there's Luke with Blue Boy. Maybe you're right, Miss. Maybe.
Oh, go on, both of you. But don't miss your lessons. That same afternoon, another unsettling experience occurred. On the way back to my room, I suddenly came across Flora. She stood on the parapet stairs, a strange smile upon her face. I stopped for a moment, gripped by the cold and certain realization that Flora was about to embrace the very presence she had denied seeing.
Flora?
Oh, Miss Cubberley.
Who's there with you, Flora?
Only me, miss.
We were playing Knight and Lady.
Very well. You may continue.
Where did you come from?
From my room, dear. I heard you cry out as if in pain. I came to see if I might aid you. But I see you were only dreaming. You quite over your nightmare?
Yes, quite. Did I awaken your sister?
Oh, she's fine. Young children sleep quite soundly.
As you should be doing at this hour. You may go back to your room.
Might I have a good night kiss? Good night, my dear.
Did Master Miles mention the nature of his troubles at school?
No, not a word.
And you didn't bring the matter up?
Oh, yes, on more than one occasion, but he shies from the subject. And I hesitate to press it further. He'll speak in due time.
And you didn't write to Mr. Fredericks?
No, and I shall not unless things move beyond my control. I must see this out.
Might I ask a special favour, Miss Coverley?
Yes, of course.
Could we visit the graves?
He means the churchyard round the back. The cemetery's there.
Oh?
I'll not go. I want to go back home to Bly and play dolls. My little doll, Sally, is very sick. Somebody wicked got off her head.
I could take Miss Flora back, miss, if it pleases you to go with Master Miles.
I would like to visit the graves.
Well, all right. We'll go round to the cemetery then, Mrs. Gross.
This way. You enjoy being in cemeteries, Miss Cubberley? Enjoy?
No. I neither like nor dislike them. I never seek them out, if that's what you mean.
I find them fascinating. Think that all these people once strong and alive, now they're fallen apart and deep buried. Will my skeleton fall apart when I die?
What kind of talk? You're barely 14.
Can't 14-year-olds die?
Everyone dies eventually, Miles, but we try not to think about it.
That's irrational. Why not think about it? Death is as real as life. Are you afraid to die, Miss Cubberley?
I don't know. I suppose it's something I shall face at the proper time.
I've often thought myself dead. And what it would be like. Lying there, cold, still.
Well, I think everyone imagines what it must be to die, but it's morbid to dwell upon the image.
Well, I'm not at all afraid, and neither is Flora.
Do you talk of death with Flora?
Oh, we talk of many things. She's extremely bright, as you've noticed. She's not like other little girls. Flora understands things.
What things does she understand?
I should like to talk to all these people, the ones here under the ground. I should like to ask them questions and listen to what they would tell me. A quick boy such as myself, I could learn a great deal.
Have you ever told Mrs. Gross what you're telling me about the dead?
Oh, goodness, no, my dear. Mrs. Gross is such a simple soul. She'd be terribly shocked.
Well, I'm shocked.
Oh, no, you're not. Oh, you think you ought to be, but you're not. Indeed, you're fascinated by everything I've said. Do you find me a wicked boy, Miss Cubberley?
Oh, no, Miles. You're a good boy.
Not good. Not always good. I have been wicked, you know.
No, you've not been really wicked. You've played pranks, of course, but that's not being wicked. True wickedness is something far more. Wickedness darkens the soul. What's wrong?
It's just that... Well, sometimes I...
Sometimes what?
Sometimes I'm afraid of myself, Miss Cubberley. I frighten myself.
How? What do you mean?
There are times, Miss Cubberley, when I do feel wicked. Truly wicked.
But you have no reason.
Oh, you can't say that. You don't know.
Yes, I can,
No,
Miles.
you can't. What about that time in the stables?
What do you mean?
I've asked Luke. He'll tell you.
No, Miles, you tell me. Tell me, Miles.
I hurt Timothy when we were playing together in the stables.
Did he do something to make you angry?
He did nothing. I just wanted to hurt him.
Why?
I don't know why.
What made you want to hurt him, Miles? Who made you want to do it?
Nobody at all. I just wanted to hurt him. Wanted to be wicked. Oh, let's leave now. I've had enough of this place. Enough!
Miles, please. Miles, wait for me. Mrs. Gross, could I ask you a question?
Yes, miss.
Do you happen to know of a recent incident where Miles hurt Timothy?
No, I don't, miss. Why do you ask?
Well, it's just that when I was with Miles today, he happened to mention it, and he was very upset about it.
Well, what did he say had happened?
Well, that's it. He wouldn't go into any details. He just said it happened at the stables.
Oh, I remember. They were playing one day in the stables, Master Miles and Timothy, and Timothy fell from the loft accidentally. It could have been quite serious because the boy narrowly missed impaling himself on the pitchfork. But all that actually happened was he was a bit shaken up and scratched himself on one of the thighs.
Well, why do you suppose Miles would tell me that he thought he was responsible?
Responsible? Oh, I think I know the answer to that, miss. Luke practically accused Master Miles of deliberately pushing the boy.
What did Timothy say?
He told his father it was only an accident and that he'd fallen while they were playing.
I see.
Luke was always quick to anger when it comes to Master Miles. It's no secret, miss, that for some reason Luke doesn't like the boy.
Well, that's awful, because it's already had its effect on Miles. For some reason that he cannot truly understand himself, he actually believes that he wanted to hurt Timothy, and he's frightened by his own feelings.
Well, it's not true, miss, and I'm sure you know it isn't true.
Well, of course I do, Mrs. Gross, but nevertheless, the damage has already been done.
Well, it's too bad. I know Luke didn't really mean any harm, but Master Miles is just not capable of hurting anyone.
Late that night, with both children abed, I retired to the sitting room in order that I might hopefully lose myself in the pages of a book. For after the disquieting scene with Miles at the cemetery, I needed to calm my disturbed senses. Some while had passed since I had encountered Miss Jessel by the pond, and longer still since I'd faced the infamous Quint at the window. I had striven to put aside all thoughts pertaining to possible future visitations. On this night, however, my very skin crawled with the rising conviction that indeed I was not yet quit of them, that I was to be plagued afresh with their evil shapes at Bly, there being something of dread undefinably astir in the sleeping house. The walk back to my room seemed on this uneasy night a journey unending. The halls seemed thrice their size. It was as if Bly House had stretched and lengthened itself in the manner of a thing alive, that the very wood stirred beneath my feet. At the stairs, my sense of apprehension greatly intensified, and I found myself short of breath, though I had not yet begun to climb. As a child, I had once read in amusement that midnight is the hour of the witch and that 2 a.m. is the hour of the demon. Now, at 2, in the black depths of Bly House, I was anything but amused at the recollections, yet pushed such thoughts aside to climb still further upward. The staircase became an enemy to be conquered, a wooden mountain to be scaled. Then, as I reached the top of the stairs, I felt a chill enter my body, a cold so intense that I shuddered as if deep winter had entered the hall. It seemed to be emanating from the schoolroom. Sudden compelling force beyond my will seemed to draw me back to the main staircase. My heart crashed against the wall of my body in a thudding drumbeat of fear. Then, as I rounded the top of the stairs, he was there. I had in that instant come to full terms with the situation. I knew why he was there, what had drawn him back to Bly House, coupled with his corrupt companion in lust, the infamous Jessel woman. They had come for the children, to claim the innocent souls of Miles and little Flora, and that dark knowledge strengthened me in this moment of horror. No, I will not permit it. You shall not have them!
Oh, she should have thrown a bottle of Coppertone at that guy. Why, he is as pale as a ghost. Which makes a great deal of sense because, like, is a ghost. I guess they just don't have tanning salons on the other side. But old Peter Quint was a fun-loving rogue when he was alive, wasn't he?
He drank, caroused, took liberties.
Yep, he was your basic 18th century party animal. And it looks like little Miles is following in his footsteps. That kid is quite a little maniac, isn't he?
Yes, quite.
Yeah, sure. I mean, everybody can see that. That is, everybody except his little frog. Now, that was really sick. I mean, even by my standards, which are practically non-existent. Boy, I tell you, that stuff is eventually gonna catch up with him. Caught up to little Flora. Why, she once poked a frog in the rear end, and look what happened to her. Whoa, is that a big butt or what? Oh, God, you could carry drinks on that thing. Anyway, let's get back to the turn of the screw. Unfortunately, I have a feeling things are going to take a turn for the worse.
Apparently, in that moment of rage and fear, I had flung myself full at the demon figure and had tumbled from the landing. At the impact, my senses quite deserted me. And my next recollection was of Mrs. Gross bending over me, and behind her, Miles and Flora.
Are you all right, miss?
We feared for your life, my dear.
Indeed. Have you any broken bones?
No, I'm all right. I stumbled in the dark. The night air blew out my candle. I lost my footing. Now, back to bed, both of you. It's far too late for talk.
What really happened, miss?
Peter Quint. He was on the stairs. You do believe me, don't you, that he was there? They want me out of the way. Don't you see that, Mrs. Gross? They want me to abandon the children to them, but I shall not. Please, I must implore you. I need your help in this to stand against them. We must stand together. Quint was here tonight from the grave to seek out young Miles. I'm sure of it.
Though what you tell me seems impossible. I must grant that there were bonds, strong bonds between Quint and the boy. Almost unnatural. They were always close, with Quint spoiling him and taking him along on wrong occasions.
What occasions? How wrong?
They'd be out together with Quint, drinking. Be gone for hours. When they were out, he'd feed the boy whiskey. Once I saw Master Miles stagger and fall from the effect. Plain drunk the poor lad was.
And Miss Jessel allowed it?
Oh, she didn't mind that one. She had Miss Flora to herself on those occasions.
I see. And when they were together in the lust, Quint and that Jessel woman, were the children witness?
Oh, I cannot truly say, miss. Flora was too young to know what they were about, but Master Miles...
So you could see he knew what was between them?
Well, he denied, so I don't know.
You do know. Despite his denial, you know that he was witness to their foul union.
Oh, I hate to speak of it.
I am convinced that it was Quint's influence that caused Miles trouble at school. The boy's dismissal can be laid to Quint. And her, that Jessel woman, with young Flora. Oh, the children know what's about this very second at Bly. I tell you, they know.
Know of what you saw?
More. They pretend otherwise. But Lord help us, I believe they actually welcome it. And yet if they win out, Quint and Jessel, then the children are lost. Their very souls will be forfeit.
But why, miss? Why is all this happening?
I don't know the why of it. I only know this horror is upon us, and we must do everything in our power to protect the children.
I can only pray that you are wrong about all this.
I too, Mrs. Gross. I too.
Italy.
Africa.
Germany.
Egypt.
Russia.
Very good. Now, You each has signed a paper concerning some aspect of your life here at Bly. You first, Flora. And out loud, please.
My life at Bly is ever so much fun now that my sweet brother is home once again. We run and play all manner of splendid games. Sometimes we go to church with Mrs. Gross and Miss Cubley, our fine new governess, who teaches us many things in the schoolroom upstairs.
That's excellent. I think I'll give you an A for this. Oh, you've misspelled splendid. It ends D-I-D, not D-E-D. All right, thank you. Miles, your paper, please.
It's much too personal to read aloud, dear. I'm sure you'll wish to read it for yourself.
Who wrote this?
Why, I did, miss, just as you assigned.
That's a lie, Miles.
No, honest, miss, on my honour. The paper's all mine.
Then these lurid words are yours.
What I wrote shocked or offended you, dear Miss Cubley. I tender my most sincere apologies. I was merely attempting to be free with my style.
This paper is completely unacceptable. You'll write me another, proper one, and I shall expect to have it by this afternoon. You're both dismissed.
Wake up, Miss Cubley. Please wake up.
Oh, Flora, what's wrong?
You told me not to tell, but I must. She'll be fearfully angry with me for telling.
Who'll be angry?
Miles. I'm so worried.
What did he ask you not to tell me?
He said he was going to play.
This time of night?
On the parapet.
It's terribly dangerous up there at night. He knows it's forbidden.
That's why he made me promise not to tell.
Why would he do such a thing? Did he give you any reason?
He said that he wanted to be wicked, that wicked is being natural.
Natural?
That's what he said.
Now, you remain here in my bed and you don't move an inch until I return.
What are you going to do with Miles? Will you punish him severely?
Now, that's not your affair. You leave Miles to me. I'll deal with him.
Did I do the right thing in telling Miss? He'll be fearfully angry with me.
Of course, you did exactly right. Go to sleep.
Yes, Miss.
The conviction was strongly upon me that I must function upon reaching the boy as a shield between him and the dark force which sought to steal him from me. I felt not unlike a knight rushing to battle for the life of a loved one. My own basic terrors were thrust back in a view of my vital mission. Fear was thus replaced by a desperate sense of urgency.
Miles!
Get off there, Miles. Here, give me your hand. A sense of lightness assailed me as I drifted closer to the edge of the parapet. The figure of Peter Quint seemed to be drawing me downward. I fought to maintain my balance, attempting to stave off a wave of vertigo which threatened to sweep me from the edge. It was as if his strong hands were clutching at me, slowly exerting force. A sense of impending death swept over me, stealing my sanity.
Miss Cubberley, what are you doing here? What are you doing up here?
Miles, where's the boy?
I haven't seen him, miss.
But he was here a moment ago.
Oh, I don't know anything about that, miss. I heard Miss Flora crying, and she told me that you'd come up here.
And she made no mention of Miles?
No, miss. Are you sure
Yes, of course I'm sure. He was here. He was right here.
Oh, miss, he's asleep.
Nonsense, he's faking.
Wake up, Miles. Come on, it's no use pretending. Not deceived.
Oh, miss, I think he's been asleep all the time. Please, miss.
Go and see to Miss Flora. I'll deal with Master Miles.
Well, if you... Yes, miss.
Well, Miles. Now I want the truth. Why did you go up to the parapet?
If I tell you, will you truly understand?
Tell me.
It was a test. I was testing you.
With Flora's knowledge?
Oh, yes, she agreed to help me with the test. It was carefully planned. Flora was to wake you and pretend that I'd asked her not to tell you that I'd gone up to the parapet. We both knew you'd come up after me. I was to stand on the very edge and pretend not to hear you when you called my name. Meanwhile, Flora was to alert Mrs. Gross. It was all a test.
To what purpose?
To see if you would still love me if I was wicked. Do you? I so need your affection, Miss Cubberley. I'm not really a wicked boy, even if I seem...
I know. Miles, I must ask you. Did you know what I'd encounter there at the parapet? That he'd be there? That I'd be drawn to the very edge?
No, miss, I swear it was simply a test. I don't know what you're saying.
Then why did you run away?
Because I wanted to frighten you by disappearing. It was all part of my wickedness.
That was all?
That was all, miss, all.
Very well. We'll say no more about it.
I hope you won't punish Flora. Oh, please don't. It was all my idea.
There'll be no punishment. Good night, Miles.
Good night. And Miss Cubberley,
Yes, Miles, what is it?
I do regret having caused you any distress. Henceforth, I shall be an absolutely first-rate person.
I left young Miles quite shaken by the child's need for affection. His intensity and open sincerity moved and impressed me. He seemed to be trying to break through to me, and I could not abandon him, a vulnerable child reaching out for affection. I was determined to supply that precious commodity. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Ready or not, here I come.
A serene and happy week passed. The children behaved beautifully. Miles in particular was bright and affectionate. Both were attentive and quick at their lessons. Yet, even as I joined in their games and their gaiety, I felt always the oppressive weight of my sure and certain knowledge that I would soon again face those whose corrupting influence I sought so earnestly to dispel. A seasonal storm struck at Bly, and the inclement weather kept the children indoors throughout the day, but they had neither complained nor misbehaved as a result of this tiresome confinement. To reward them for their patience, I had agreed to sit with Mrs. Gross in audience while the children performed for us. On this night, we had no idea of the nature of the performance, nor of its odd and unsettling content.
I so enjoy a cup of hot chocolate on a cold night. Will you join me?
Thank you, miss, I will. Thank you.
You've never told me of your family. Your parents, your brothers and sisters.
Oh, I never had brothers or sisters, miss. My mother, she was a working woman like myself. She wanted more children, but something went wrong and she couldn't have any more. She died young. My father, he kept to his trade. Never married again.
What was his trade?
Roof thatcher. Good he was at it. But he's gone too now. Oh, I've been alone for many years. No family. Until the children came into my life. They're my family now. Master Miles and little Flora.
Were they born at Bly?
Oh, no, miss. They were born somewhere in Africa. The Gold Coast, I think they call it. Constant travellers, those people were.
Oh, so they came to Bly
After their parents died. Their uncle, Mr. Fredericks, he brought them here. I was already working for him. Luke, too. I tell you, they brightened Bly the moment they stepped inside the door. What a joy, those bright, shining little faces, full of life. Oh, it was a good house before the others came.
Dear ladies, this evening you are to be entertained by these humble personages. We have chosen a verse composed by myself to be performed here tonight. However, before we present this offering, the proper mood must be set. Unfortunately, I am unable to play the piano, but my sister Flora is really quite accomplished. Flora? Please begin. Very good, Flora. Come over here now. Our piece is entitled The Gift Eternal.
Darkness is a shroud to cover.
Darkness is the cloak we wear.
We do not fear the vasty blackness.
We wear shadows in our hair.
Darkness calls us to a reckoning.
Calls us to its close embrace.
We shall soon be there to meet it.
Though we cannot see its face.
In the dark, the grave doth open.
And the coffin cannot hold.
Those of of us who love the darkness.
Darkness is our final throne.
Has something happened, miss? What's wrong?
I thought I saw reflected in that mirror.
Yes, miss?
Evil. It was evil.
Do tell me if you liked our performance.
Oh, yes, very much.
And did it entertain?
Yes, quite. You were both excellent.
Perhaps we shall go to London and appear on the stage. Wouldn't that be exciting?
Oh, London is a pest hole, my dear. No, we shall stay here at Bly to entertain our beloved Mrs. Gross. And of course, dear Miss Cubberley.
Knowledge becomes the armour one wears against adversity, and in my quest for more knowledge of Peter Quint, I decided to pay a visit on the following morning to Luke Ames at the stables.
Morning, Timothy.
Oh, morning, miss. Rue says hello.
You're grooming him beautifully. What a lovely horse.
Oh, thank you, miss. I guess my father's taught me everything there is to know about horses. He knows horses better than people.
Tell me something, Timothy. Do you remember Mr. Quint?
Yes.
Did you like him?
I was little then, he didn't pay me much mind.
Oh, I know you were, Timothy, but you must remember something about him. What was he like?
I didn't like him.
Why not?
He was mean and nasty. Once I saw him ride a horse to death. Mean when he drank. And this one Sunday, he came to the stables, got his favourite riding horse, a lovely black mare, and rode her till she dropped. He came back cursing her as if it was her fault she died on him. It was cruel, Mr. Quint was.
Is your father here?
Round the back working.
Oh, Luke. Morning, Luke.
Morning, miss. Is there something I can do for you, miss?
Yes, you could talk to me, Luke.
Talk to you, miss.
I've some questions I'd like answered.
Would you like some hot tea? I can fix them up with no trouble.
No, thanks.
Just as well. The place is in a mess. Well, me and Tim, we don't get many visitors.
Well, he's a fine boy. I'm sure you're proud of him.
Oh, I am, miss. Got a natural way with horses, Tim has. You know, I taught him to sit a saddle before he could walk. What was it you wanted to talk of, miss?
Peter Quint.
If you don't mind, miss, I'd rather not talk about him.
Why, Luke, did you ever have any trouble with him?
Yes, miss. I had my troubles with Mr. Quint.
Please, Luke, it's very important to me.
You don't mind my asking, miss, why should Peter Quint be important to you?
Because I just need to know. Please, Luke.
All right, miss. What do you want to know?
Well, the night Peter Quint died on the road, who found his body?
Why, Miss Jessel. She'd been with him, you see.
I understood he fell on the icy road.
Yes, miss. Drunk he was.
And what about her? Was she not drunk also?
It's public knowledge, miss. We've been seen together drinking and roistering.
And when they found him, what was the condition of his body?
Condition, miss?
What exactly killed him?
His skull was crushed. Most say he hit his head on a rock. Some say different.
Go on, Luke.
Well, some say it were her. Jessel did him in on the road that night. As crazy jealous she was over his traffic with other women. All I know is she went clean out of her head afterward.
So that's why she killed herself.
You might say that, miss. You just could might.
Tell me, Luke. Why don't you like Master Miles?
For the same reasons I didn't like Peter Quint.
What do you mean?
If you don't mind, miss, that's all I'm saying.
As I left the stables and approached the house, I heard piano music and assumed that Flora was at practice. I soon realized this could not be so, for the music was quite professional, a beautifully executed rendition of Bach. Was that you playing, Miles?
Yes, miss.
But at the recital last night, you said you couldn't play.
I lied.
Why?
Simply to make Flora appear as talented as I. After all, I'd written the verse. It was only right that Flora be allowed to play.
Yes, but why lie about it? Why not simply let her play without comment as to your own inability? Why make a point of it?
I thought it best she appear superior to me in that instance. Perhaps I was in error. I regret the lie, Miss Copley, particularly now as it seems to have upset you.
Well, please continue. I had no idea that you had such a talent for Bach.
I'm tired now, Miss Copley. I had planned to take a nap before supper.
Please, I'd like to hear you play, Miles.
And unhappily I must decline, dear miss. I really am quite fatigued.
Late that afternoon, after correcting some of the children's work papers, I was on my way to the schoolroom when I suddenly ran into little Flora.
Please forgive me, miss.
You're in an awful hurry.
I was just off into the garden. Would you come play with me?
Oh, I can't. I've got your lessons to get ready for tomorrow. Where's Miles?
Oh, he's off exploring somewhere with Timothy. You know how boys are.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you go into the garden and pick some flowers for the house, and that'll keep you busy.
Very well. Miss Coverley, I've often wondered something. Do roses scream? I mean, when they die, when you kill them?
Never thought of such a thing. You vile, miserable woman! Flora! Come here at once! Wasn't she, Flora? You were in here with her and you heard me coming. That's why you lingered in the hall. Say it, Flora, say it!
I was alone in here!
Please leave me! Having been awakened in the night from a troubled sleep by strange sounds I could not identify, I discovered that Flora was missing from the room. Miles also was afoot in this late hour, his bed unslept in. Then, as I stood there, I heard again those sounds which had awakened me. Bly House has many closed rooms, and it was to one of these, in the deserted west wing, that the disturbing night sounds drew me.
clever thing. Cheers for Miss Gubberley.
We thought you'd hear us.
Someone else was here. I heard them.
You heard us, my dear. Flora was tickling me. She's quite a dreadful tease.
You shall both be punished for this. And this time I shall not be lenient. I've had quite enough of your late-night excursions.
And what will you do to us, my dear? Will you chain us to the walls?
And feed us naught but bread and water while rats crawl around our skin.
Will you whip us with cat o' nine tails until our backs are striped and bloody?
You shall both be separated and confined to your rooms. There will be no riding and no outings and no playing of games.
And for how long are we to be confined?
I shall determine that in due course. You may both return to your rooms.
It's been 2 days now, miss. The children have had their punishment, wouldn't you say? Poor dears.
They're not poor dears. They deliberately provoked me into punishing them. They knew they were doing wrong, going to that room, doing what they did.
What did they do that was so bad?
They watched them. That infamous pair. Their lust. Is that not enough, Mrs. Gross? They have been corrupted, both of them, perhaps beyond redemption.
Oh, miss. I wasn't going to tell you. Not for a time, at least.
Tell me what?
About Luke and his boy. They've gone.
Gone where? What do you mean?
Well, it was what happened last Thursday to Timothy. We kept it from you, miss.
Was he injured?
Well, no, not injured exactly. It had to do with Master Miles.
Tell me what happened.
Well, he did something, I don't know what, to Timothy while they were playing. Luke said he found his boy in the stables, half out of his mind.
You mean frightened?
Terrified, miss. At something Master Miles had done or said. I just don't know.
Well, didn't Timothy say what had happened?
Not to me, miss. And Luke, he wouldn't speak of it. He just packed up and took little Tim and said he was never coming back to Bly.
Did you ask Miles about this?
Yes, miss, but he said he just couldn't understand why Timothy would make such a fuss because nothing really happened.
Oh, he'd call it nothing.
Pardon, miss?
At this very moment, in his room, he's not alone. Quint is there. Peter Quint is with him.
Oh, miss.
That Jessel woman with young Flora. The children don't need us, dear woman. They've got them. And Flora's needlework. Have you seen it?
Oh, I have, miss. It's quite remarkable.
Oh, yes, indeed it is. That's no little child's work. That's Jessel's work. She held the needle, not Flora. Oh, I am not deceived, Mrs. Gross. I see it all. If you could but see them as I have. Those innocent children steeped in their visions of the dead restored.
I try to believe you, miss, but I have not witnessed what you have.
Now, up there, they're talking to them. I go on, I know, as if I was mad. It's God's wonder I'm not. What I have seen would made you so. But it has only made me more lucid and more determined to drive these horrors out. I have written to Mr. Fredericks, telling him he is sorely needed here. Can you see that this letter is posted?
Why, yes, miss. Did you give him all the details of the matter?
Oh, no, I dared not. If I told him what was truly happening here, he'd think me mad. No, that letter is a plea, no more. If he'll but heed it.
Yes. Yes. I hear you. I'll come. Yes. Yes, I'll come.
Miss Cubberley. Oh, miss, I've just come from Miss Flora's room. I'm so worried about her. She hasn't had a bite to eat, and I do wish you'd reconsider their punishment.
Well, she's a perfectly healthy child, and she's not about to die of starvation.
No, but what good will it do continuing their confinement? Oh, please, miss, I'm truly worried about her.
Yes, my dear, come in.
I've come to tell you your punishment is over. You are no longer confined to your room.
Miss Cubberley, I've been reading a book about a prince in the 15th century in Transylvania who employed a unique method of punishment.
Miles.
Oh, no, dear, you must listen. It's fascinating. When someone displeased him, he ordered them stripped naked and impaled on a stake. He would often eat his dinners surrounded by his victims. Nasty fellow withal, wouldn't you say?
Now, Miles, we're going to stop this. Playing of word games no longer amuses me. What should happen if your uncle should arrive now? What would you tell him?
About what, my dear?
What's happening here in this house? About Timothy?
You mean tell Uncle I've been wicked?
You know what I mean exactly. Oh, Miles.
Poor Miss Cubberley. We have put you through a lot, haven't we? Oh, dear. You look so pale of late. So drained of colour. And so tired. There, is that better? Does that relax you?
Is there nothing at all that you want to tell me? That you will tell me?
But you know what there is to know.
Miles, please believe me. I don't want you to suffer this alone. But you must trust me. You must trust what I'm saying.
If only you could...
Could what, Miles? I'll do anything to save you.
I should like to know something.
Yes?
You talk of saving me, but tell me who, dear lady, is to save you.
Running.
A child out in the storm. She's running where? In what direction?
Toward the pond, miss.
Oh, what's wrong? Miles, your sister is out there in that storm. We are going after her. You will stay here.
Yes, certainly, Miss Cubberley. Besides, I shouldn't fancy getting soaked out there. The fellow has to watch his health.
As we plunged forward, I dared not consider what might await us at the pond, for I was certain that the woman had snatched Flora from me at a time when the infernal creature sensed I might break through to the child. And what she might do at this late and critical juncture was a thought I could not bear. Say it! Admit you saw your precious Miss Jessel! Say it, Flora, say it!
I
alluring that child to a death?
I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. My one big
Flora, dear, come on.
He's horrible.
Come on now. Shh. Hush, my darling. Hush.
He's hateful.
Oh, shh.
He's vile.
Master Miles? Master Miles? Open the door. Master Miles, please open the door. Master Miles has locked his door, won't answer me, won't budge from his room. And the letter you wrote to Mr. Fredericks, it's gone. I'm afraid Master Miles has taken it off the table in the hall.
Never mind. You leave Miles to me. Have you packed Flora's things?
Yes, miss. We'll take the carriage out tonight.
And what does she say of me?
Oh, miss, I don't think I should.
Tell me. You must tell me.
She fears you, miss.
Fears me. No fear of Jessel, is that it?
She said not a word of Miss Jessel, but she's spoken the most dreadful horrors, miss. About you. Used quite dreadful words I'd no idea she knew.
Thank God. That justifies me.
That child's appalling language.
Yes, it justifies me. Don't you see that? They're not her words, they're Jessel's. And Jessel's lost her now. She tried to take her down at the pond, but she lost. And now she rages through the child.
I'll take her to London, far away from them.
Then you do believe?
I believe, miss.
Take the child quickly and go. Leave me with Miles.
Alone with the boy, miss?
Don't you see? He wants to speak to me, to release himself and confess this whole vile business. I can make him speak.
And if he confesses, what then?
Why, then he's saved. Quint is lost. They've lost the pair of them, Quint and Jessel. Now, go quickly. Take the child. Let me save Miles. Don't you see that, dear Mrs. Gross? That now I'm the only one in all this world that can. As the storm continued to assail Bly House, it was as if Miles and I were alone in a great wooden ship, caught in the midst of raging seas and cut off from all friendly shores. I mounted towards Miles' room with a sense of high resolve. I knew that my greatest test lay ahead, that the monstrous Quint would make his final attempt this night, and that I must be steeled against weakness of mind or body. The boy's life, his soul, was literally in my hands. Miles? Will you open your door to me, Miles?
Do come in. My door is always open to you, Miss Coverley. Do you like my outfit? I thought I would dress properly for the occasion. And this is an occasion, our being alone together apply. Will Flora be all right, or is the dear child ill?
Flora will be fine. Mrs. Gross has taken her to London, to your uncle's. Flora's in an emotional state. She needed to get away from Bly.
From Bly? Or from you, my dear?
She's quite distressed. She's not at all herself. London will calm and restore her.
I'm sure it will. I suppose I should have said goodbye, but goodbyes are tiresome and pointless if those who depart return.
I doubt that Flora will ever return to Bly. There's nothing for her here but sadness.
And what does Bly hold for you, my dear?
A challenge. One I must meet.
Oh, so we're together. And what a strange pair we make, I say. Why did you stay, Miss Cubberley? You could have gone with them.
Well, I'd never leave you alone here, Miles. You know that.
Alone? One is never alone.
Then who is with you?
My thoughts. My past. All the things of my life are here with me. As they are with you.
I'm here as your friend, Miles.
And I as yours, my dear. Oh, you've been splendid with me on the whole. My recent confinement was, of course, quite deserving. I hold you in high regard. In fact, I must confess something.
Yes?
I'm starved. Couldn't we continue our talk over tea and biscuits? I so enjoy hot biscuits soaked in honey. We shall have a high old time for ourselves, shan't we, dear Miss Cubberley? On such a night as this, I so prefer brandy over tea. I am so sorry you won't join me.
All right, Miles, I will join you.
Good girl. There you are, my dear. A toast.
To what?
To us, of course. The two of us here at Bly on a storm-tossed night. To our relationship. And now what have you to say to me? I know you have much to say.
I want to talk truth, with no evasions, and no verbal tricks, and no shunting aside.
Of what?
Of what we both know. Of what Flora knew.
Ask me anything. You'll have your truth.
Very well, that letter that I wrote to your uncle. Did you take it from the hall table?
I took it, yes.
And read it?
Yes. It was dull. Nothing more than a highly emotional request that my uncle return to Bly. I had hoped for more.
You had no right to take it.
Nor you to write it. Knowing as you do that my uncle is not to be troubled. Is this tiresome subject all you wish to discuss with me?
All right. Your school. Why were you dismissed and not to be readmitted?
Because I said things.
Only that?
They thought it enough.
To turn you out for?
Yes.
To whom did you say them?
My chums, mainly. Those I liked.
And did they repeat them?
Yes. To those they liked.
And so these things that you said, they eventually got around to your headmaster?
Eventually.
But in his letter, he gave no specific reason for your dismissal.
I'm not surprised. I wouldn't have expected him to write the things I'd said down on paper. One doesn't, does one?
Were they vile, then?
I'm not going to repeat them to you, dear, if that's what you're after. I shouldn't wish to corrupt you.
So they were corrupting, were they? To the other children? He taught them to you, didn't he, Miles? As he taught you so much else. As he taught you foul words and foul deeds. He's corrupted you, Miles, hasn't he? Can't you see that? He's made you now what you are.
Can't you leave me alone? I'm sick of your questions!
it. You can win. You can be free of him forever. Turn your back on him, Miles. Miles, reject Peter Quint. Come to me. To me. Oh, Miles. You're all right now. There, dear Miles. Dear, dear, dear Miles.
Don't go away, darling. I'll be back with you quicker than you can say boo. Well, there you have it. Another happy ending. I'm sorry. That's right. She's about the sorriest excuse for a babysitter I have ever seen. I mean, she pushed the kid down the stairs and all she has to say is, I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry just does not cut it. Can't you think of anything else to say? I mean, what you did was dreadful.
How dreadful.
How dreadful? Like real dreadful. I mean, so dreadful that's the last prank Master Miles is ever gonna pull.
Nonsense, he's faking.
He is? Hey, Miles, baby, you really okay?
Yes.
Good, because I have a couple of questions I want to ask you, but I want you to tell me the truth, okay?
Ask me anything. You'll have your truth.
Okay. Oh boy, now we are gonna get some real juicy gossip. Now, exactly what kind of kinky, lustful acts did you see Peter Quint and Mrs. Jessel do?
I'm not going to repeat them to you, dear, if that's what you're after.
Rats. Oh, well, sorry, gang, I tried. Guess you're just gonna have to get your thrills from the other thrilling movies available from Thriller Video. Check it out, dudes.
Introducing Alabama, the outrageous celebrity of mystical magic, the raging superstar of the supernatural. But Alabama's a phony. He's stolen his secrets right from the grave of a great magician named Carter, once the world's most wonderful wizard.
Carter's ghost is floating around my head.
Now Alabama will pay for his pilferage. His bumbling black magic has aroused the wrath of the spirits of darkness, who haunt him unmercifully. Christopher Brooks stars in the surrealistic, phantasmagorical extravaganza, Alabama's Ghost.
And remember, I'll be doing my hostess shtick on each and every one of them. Until then, this'll have to hold you. Mwah! And unpleasant dreams.